usage of the bathroom. And we said that some things are obligatory, some things are recommended, some things are disliked. What is the thing that is obligatory when it comes to using the bathroom? It was two things. Istinja is one. No. That's part of it, yes. No. Just cleaning. No, what would that be? Making a dua going into the bathroom. No, what would it be? Obligatory, recommended, disliked, recommended. But the Shaykh Rahimahullah, Shaykh Saadi, he mentioned that it was recommended. Where were we? Istinja was one of the wajib. What was the other? Brother mentioned using your left hand. It was another thing. Nobody has their papers. Take time to print these. Are you from last week too?
Oh, no, that's last week.
Last week? They should have them last week, right? It's on WhatsApp? Okay. And then the other was that to make every effort to remove the najasa. To make every effort to remove the najasa. So here is istinja, and then to make every effort in removing the harm. And the harm we will discuss today, inshallah, the things of impurities. So here also the Shaykh mentioned, rahimahullah, there are 3 stages of cleanliness or cleaning oneself. Do we remember what they were? Oh, we got a dead crowd tonight, huh?
3 stages?
Yeah, 3 stages. Okay. You're right, but you're wrong, huh?
Talking about 3 stages
of the removal.
With paper or water, then is best.
Say that again.
I mean, with water, and then.
So start with the best.
The best is the water. The water first. So, and then after that.
No.
Well, istinja and then istinmar.
Okay, so what is the best? What is water and paper? We're going to say paper. Even though we're mentioning in stones, but dealing with wiping oneself with paper, toilet paper, and then cleaning oneself with water. Bringing the two together. That is the best. Then, go ahead, Aki.
And then with
water by itself is the second best. Water by itself is the second best. And then thirdly,
with water,
no. With paper by itself. Those are your levels. So if you want to purify yourself from using the bathroom, the best is that of first using toilet paper, then following it up with water. If you don't have that, for whatever reason, then you can go just water. And if you don't have that, then you can use toilet paper alone by itself or anything that will remove that filth from that area. Wipes, toilet paper, a rag even, if need be, leaves. But there are some things that you can't use. And that is harmful to the skin. Anything that has a sacredness to it, for instance, paper, like a book from a book or something of that nature. These we to use in removing the filth. So here, then he went on to some recommended affairs, which the brother mentioned. One was the supplication. What were some others? Huh? Go ahead. Is that yours?
I lost it.
You lost it? Go ahead. What particular? In your right? La. See what happens when you cheat? So you go in first with your left foot. Going in first with your left foot is highly recommended, right? So highly recommended is to go in on with your left foot. Then what? That's cleaning yourself. That's supplication, part of supplication. There's the question that we went over, the aspect of Bismillah and then the dua. Who memorized the dua? You said that fast, so who else can give it to me? Because I know nobody else got that, right? Huh? Go ahead. Who's got the dua? Somebody memorize it? How about you, young brother? It's all right. You use the bathroom? Good. So here is the supplication that of the Sheikh mentioned what? Recommended. Fred, you say what? Bismillah. They are not from the same hadith. They are not from the same hadith. So the one that the brother just mentioned came from a particular companion, and the other one came. Who can name the companion? And we only mentioned this because we mentioned this last week. We were going to bring this back up. So who did our revision? Since none of you can blame Muhammad for it because he's the one that brought it up. Huh? Which one? Huh? So from the hadith of Anas is the supplication that the brother mentioned. Now what about Bismillah? Abdullah, man, there's a lot of Abdullahs. Ahsan. Abdullah ibn Abbas. So, no, that's not right. Ali ibn Abi Talib. So here, Ali ibn Abi Talib mentioned that saying Bismillah is your concealment between you and the jinn. So when you go in the bathroom and you say Bismillah, the jinn or what? Concealed from your parts. So mentioning that particular narration, Bismillah, and then mentioning the supplication are both highly recommended. Both highly recommended. Then we mentioned that of dealing with the and being removed from the people. And when cleaning self with an odd number. Cleaning oneself with an odd number. They're wiping themselves with toilet paper to use an odd number of toilet paper or wipes. Then we went into the affairs of dealing with the haram and what we should be aware of. What? The main one being what? No. Okay, that would be impossible. Mentioning Allah Ta'ala's name in the bathroom. Bringing the mushaf into the bathroom. Obviously, praying in the bathroom. Anything else? Facing the east or the west. For us, it would be south or north, right? So here, not a second of prayer if we are where? Out in an open area. As for being in structures or where there's walls or buildings and things of that nature, it is okay. And then what else is recommended upon leaving? Gufranika. To mention the Gufranika. And we mentioned the hadith also that the Shaykh Allah mentioned, the question of it being authentic or not, but being agreed that it is Sahih Mawquf on Abi Dharr. Saying that particular citation or praise is the one who removed the harm and given me well-being. Is okay to mention it also from the aspect of the meaning. Praising Allah for removing the harm of what's inside of us and giving us well-being. But not to attribute it to the Prophet ﷺ for it not being authentically in that manner. So here, brothers, again, I encourage and I'm constantly revision. You have to, it's not enough just coming to a lesson, singing the lesson, and then going home and doing nothing. You have to have revision all the time in everything, in lessons, in Quran, and Hadith, and everything. That here, memorizing a page of Quran is easy. You find that you might be able to do it in a couple of hours, in a few minutes, it's gone if you don't have the revision. Likewise, a Hadith. You try to memorize a Hadith, it's easy to memorize a Hadith. But if you don't go over it, you forget it. And likewise, these masail, these issues in dealing with purity, cleanliness, cleaning, and all of this takes revision. So here, alhamdulillah, it's the beginning. It's in the beginning. Nobody is, getting pointed their finger at them or anything of that nature. But it's in the aspect of reminder. Always revise, always keep it fresh. And what class you do attend, try to keep it fresh. Ask questions, go over it with your brother, share the benefit. Do all of those things, and inshallah, it will make it remain. So here we go into our lesson. Did we get the papers or no? Okay, alhamdulillah. So today, inshallah, we get into the aspect of the actual things that are impure. So here we began by mentioning that the tahara is broken into two. that which is a ritual impurity and that which is a physical impurity. Ritual and removal of, we will get into that inshallah with one ghusl and the likes of that. So here the Shaykh rahimahullah, he begins by mentioning not actual impurity. And based upon what? Going over of using the bathroom, that here is based upon mostly that of a physical impurity, the rule of a physical impurity. Go into a state of ritual impurity, but the removal of the physical impurity is done when using the bathroom. So how do we get into a state of ritual impurity? That is the come. So here the Shaykh rahimahullah, he brings forth the aspects of dealing with the removal of the physical impurity. The thing actually deemed as impure. The things are actually deemed as impure. And the removal of it. So here we went over from the aspect of using the bathroom, making istinja. But here now, if we have an impurity that is on our body, on piece of wherever it may be, how do we make a removal of that physical impurity? That this is the chapter rahimahullah he brings. So it says, Izalatun najasa wa ashya najisa. يكفي في غسل جميع نجاسات على البدن والثوب أو بقعة أو غيرها نزوع عينها عن محل. So here it is enough to wash all impurities. So here all impurities, ones we will go over, whatever is deemed as an impurity. It is enough to wash all impurities from one's body, his garment, or his area, or other than that, to remove the actual impurity from its place. So your body, your thobe or your garment, whatever it may be, or place and where you want to pray, or just the area. It is sufficient to remove that impurity. Once we remove that physical impurity, what happens? That place, that body part, or that garment is now what? Pure. It is now pure. لأن الشارع اشترط في جميع غسل نجاسات عددا إلى في نجاسة الكلب. Here the legislator did not make it a prerequisite for any of the washings of the impurities a specific number. So here you get feces on you get urine on your garment. Here is a requirement to wash 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. No. There's no requirement in any impurity except the impurity or that of dealing with the dog. Except with the dealing with the dog. And that will come. That here fiha sab'a ghasalat. It is a requirement of 7 washings. 7 washings. One of them with dirt. From the hadith that is mutafaqun alayh. So we're Muslim, and it is from the hadith of Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. إذا ولغ في إناء أحدكم إذا ولغ قلب في إناء أحدكم الكلب. If the dog drinks from your vessel, then you wash it 7 times. And then there's different narrations, but of the and then what comes first. That all is in a different. Here the point being that the dog is what? And it's very impure. This is the only impurity that has been designated to be what? Washed 7 times. Washed 7 times. But everything else is sufficient to remove the physical impurity. He continues, the things that are impure. Firstly, the urine of mankind, or the human urine. Man, woman, from that aspect. And the feces. As for the proof from the urine of the Adami is from the hadith of Ibn Abbas that is mutafaqun alayh, where the Prophet ﷺ passed by the 2 graves and he said that 2 of them are being punished, but they are not being punished for something that is big. And one of them was what? He did not protect himself from urine. So punished from the grave. So here, the scholars deduct that it is impure, from the impurity of it. As for the feces, there is no sound proof in the establishment of the impurity, such as like in urine. But Imam Nawawi rahimahullah mentions in the explanation of Sahih Muslim that verily it is sufficient to mention that of the consensus. So it is a consensus of all of the ulama that feces is impure. Then he continues, adem, blood, except yu'fa and dem yasir. A little bit of blood is pardon. A little bit of blood is pardon. Some nosebleed, such as maybe, your onion, you cut your finger a little, you have a little bit of blood there. This would be what is pardon. This is what that would be. This is what would be pardon. And like it is also a dema masfur, where the spilled blood from the animal, that is, the meat is eaten, and not that which remains in the blood or the veins. For verily it is tahir. So when one slaughters an animal, here the blood that comes out, that this is impure. This is impure. So if you go slaughter, and you wear a thobe or whatever, and you slaughter, and that blood gets on you, that here you must clean that area. You must remove that blood from that, even in your fingers. But now if you go to a restaurant, and you order a medium rare steak, and you eat it, are you eating haram? No, this is pure. The redness in that steak is not deemed blood, even though it has the look and all that of blood, that here it is not legislatively blood. That is forbidden. And here, there is differencing amongst the scholars. We will mention the differencing, but we will not mention the differencing of the argument. That here we follow the position of Imam Sa'di in this affair. We don't want to get deep into that, of this blood and that blood. That here the blood and the argument for it is strong. The blood and the argument for it of being impure is strong. So here, for us in the beginning stages, us as new Muslims, us just beginning our study, that here we are going to remain of this position, that the blood is what? That it is impure. That it is impure, knowing that there is an argument of it being impure. Knowing that there is an argument of it not being impure. And as we proceed in our lessons, inshallah, we will come to that discussion. But right now, the position of the Shaykh and that of the madhab of Imam Ahmed, that the blood is impure. The blood is impure except for a little bit, such as a nosebleed, such as a cut from your finger. You cut it, cutting onions or whatever the case may be. That is okay. That is pardon. That is pardon. Min al-najasat, so also from the impure things is the urine and the dung of every animal which it is impermissible to eat. Every animal which it is impermissible to eat. So, pick and choose. Pig, dog, whatever animal it may be. But here, keep in mind, in fiqh, 1+1 doesn't always equal 2. 1+1 doesn't always equal 2. There are exceptions. There are exceptions to this regards. But again, what are we doing here? We're building a base. We're building a base to establish a specific point. Now, is there going to this? Absolutely. But this, right now, is not the time for that lesson. Right now, we just want to establish a base that every animal that it is forbidden to eat the meat of. Every animal that it is forbidden to eat the meat of, their urine and their feces is what? The urine and their feces, knowing that they're in that affair, an argument in that affair. Number 5, the fifth point that is mentioned, predatorial animals, all of them are impure. Predatorial animals are impure. So lions, tigers, and bears, all of that meat is impure, which necessitates, based upon the position that we just made, what? That their urine and their feces are impure. Likewise, the carcasses. What is a carcass? When we say meat, that verily is meaning anything that is not slaughtered Islamically. Anything that is not slaughtered Islamically. So meaning that the throat is cut and the 3 veins in the neck are cut. The 3 veins in the neck are cut and then the blood is spilled out. That here, if the animal which the meat is eaten is slaughtered in that way, the meat is what? Halal. The meat is halal. Anything outside meat is what? That of a carcass. Is considered that of a carcass. So all of those meats dies in that way by not being slaughtered properly, that verily their meat is, or their thing is what? Is najis. It is najis. Except, he says, Adami, except for the human, the corpse. وَمَا لَا نَفْسَ لَهُ سَائِلًا, and that which has no blood, like a flow of blood. It's like, for instance, the fly, or a mosquito, or, any of those type of bugs, that here, they are what? They are pure. So if you see a dead bug, that here, there is no worry about it being impure. It is pure. And then likewise the corpse. That here, likewise, that thing is also pure. Proof for that will come in a moment. Allah Ta'ala, He says, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ إِلَى آخِرِهَا, Ma'idah, ayat number 3. So here we see that Allah Ta'ala has hidden the carcass as well as blood. The carcass as well as blood. And as for the statement, وَقَالَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ الْمُؤْمِنُ لَا يَنْجِسْ حَيًّا وَلَا مَيِّتًا, that the believer does not become impure when he is alive, nor when he is deceased. When he is alive, nor when he is deceased. Again, this is two separate narrations. Keep in mind that. And practice being the precise in regards. That here, the Shaykh Rahimahullah mentions two separations, but makes it one. He mentions two separate narrations, but he makes it one. It's fine. But here in all regards, that he wants to understand the breakdown. So here we can't say al-mu'min la yanjus is al-hayy wa la maytan is mutafaqun alayh. Why? Because it isn't. Because only one portion of it is mutafaqun alayh. The other portion of it is not. The other portion of the hadith is not. But it is authentic. But here you cannot come and say that this hadith is mutafaqun alayh. Why? Because the Shaykh brought it together, that here it does not make it agreed upon. The first part of it is from the hadith, but the second part is from a totally separate sahabi, different companion, Abdullah ibn Abbas, that here he added the words what? Living and deceased. Living and deceased. So here we see the first portion of this wording is authentic. Or both are authentic. I meant mutafaqun alayh. The second portion isn't. And that is found in the Mustadrak of Hakim. So the hadith in general of altogether, it is authentic, but don't come and say that the hadith is agreed upon. Don't come and say that the hadith is agreed upon. Both of them? Huh? Both of them? Just one of them is. Which one? The first one. The believer does not become impure. The believer does not become impure. This is authentic in Bukhari wa Muslim on the authority of Abi Hurairah. The second one is also authentic, but it's found in the Mustadrak of Imam Hakim on the authority of Ibn Abbas. So it's a completely different sahabi. And then he continues, وَقَالْ أَحِلَّ لَنَا مَيْتَتَانْ وَالدَّمَانْ فَأَمَّا مَيْتَتَانْ فَالْهُوتْ وَالْجَرَادْ وَأَمَّا الدَّمَانْ فَكَبِدُ وَتِحَالْ. As far as the blood and carcasses, that verily for us are two permissible carcasses and two permissible bloods. Two permissible carcasses and two permissible bloods. The first carcasses is that of the fish and the jarad, a locust. The locust bugs. The ones that come out in the summer. Yeah, they make the that noise, right? As for the two bloods, the liver and the spleen. So these are permissible. And here, fish is that of something specific, but any type of animal that lives in the water. any type of animal that lives in the water is permissible. Meaning the carcass of it or whatever. You don't have to slaughter it. So if you go fishing and you catch a trout, you don't have to quickly take your knife to the neck and cut. It's permissible. It's halal. And likewise, if you see a fish floating on the ocean, there's no worry about it. For the Prophet ﷺ said that it is halal and permissible. And this is found Rawahu Ahmed in the Musnad of Imam Ahmed and the Sunan of Ibn Majah. And Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah. The liver and the spleen. The liver and the spleen. So eating the liver, fresh out, raw, no harm. Alhamdulillah, no harm in that regards. Even the blood in it. And the spleen, Allah alam. I can't even explain to you what a spleen is. But they're both together. They're both next to each other. As for the feces of the animals which the meat is eaten as well as its urine, then it is tahira. So as for the animals which we eat, the animals which we eat, such as a cow, such as a sheep, such as a goat, all of these particular animals, their feces as well as the urine, yarhamakallah, are deemed pure. As for the urine, they use the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ would command some of his companions, if they were afflicted with sickness, to drink the urine and the milk of the camel. And then likewise for the authority of Anas and Bukhari wa Muslim, that that the Prophet ﷺ would pray in the pens of the sheep. So where the sheep are kept, the pens, that the Prophet ﷺ would pray in them. What's that mean? Obviously they're going to, relieve themselves in that area. But here the Prophet ﷺ did what? Prayed in that area. So showing that those two things are pure. And again, we want to keep this as our base, but there is arguments. There is arguments in dealing with that, or differencing in the regards of this point. But here we will remain it upon that. Typically dealing with the animals which we don't eat the meat of. Here he continues, وَمَنِي آدَمِ طَاهِرٍ. So, the happiness between a husband and a wife, the excitement, is pure. I don't want to, because we have children, don't want to, damage them. But I hope we all understand what I'm trying to say. Is that here, that the excitement from it is pure. If we have, for our younger brothers, if we have a dream, and it is a happy dream, that here, that which comes out is what? Pure. It is pure. So if it gets on our clothes, it's pure. It must be cleaned off, like, you would wash off something. But if you do not, that it is what? It is pure. Your garment doesn't have to be cleaned or cleansed. But you do have to take a ghusl. But that will come later on. But the actual thing, the thing that comes out is pure. That is many. Is tahir. And the Prophet ﷺ, يَغْسِلُهُ رَتْبَهُ وَفْرُقُ يَابِسَهُ. That the Prophet would wash the wetness of it. So he would wash it out. And then likewise, he would scrape it out if it was dry. And Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he uses that point to establish the purity of it, saying that if it wasn't something that was pure, the Prophet ﷺ wouldn't scrape it. He would wash it. So here, the fact that he scrapes it shows that it is pure. As for pre-happiness, the Shaykh doesn't mention it, that of medhi, something different. That's the precursor to the other one, the cursor. Emission. All right. So that is impure. And must be washed. And that is from the hadith of Ali ibn Abi Talib, which is So here we see that the Prophet ﷺ commanded him to wash his private part and make wudu. Wash his private part and make wudu. So the fact that the Prophet ﷺ commanded him to wash his private part shows the fact of the impurity. And there's al-wedi. And I don't know what the medical term of it is, but older brothers get it after they urinate. And then likewise, brothers who work out consistently, lift heavy weights, after they urinate, sometimes a thickness comes out after you urinate. This is what al-wedi. And this is also impure. This is also impure. And we mentioned the aspect of it because we know a lot of brothers like to work out. So if that does happen, that the area that it is afflicted by that stuff, it must be a body part, as well as the clothing that it might have came in contact with. So here then the Shaykh Rahimahullah, the young boy or a small boy, alladhi lam ya'kul ta'am, who does not eat the solid food. So the breastfed child, boy, the young boy who is breastfed, if he urinates on something that here it is not deemed as a bigger or greater impurity. It's still deemed as a smaller impurity, but it is not the impurity to be washed. That it is sufficient enough to what? Sprinkle. And inshallah that would be sufficient. Li shahwa. So here you might ask, well, what he eats and he's still breastfed? Whichever he eats and is satisfied from the most. So if he eats a little bit of the Gerber food or whatever the case may be, but then he fills up on breast milk. This means that he's just tasting the food and not eating it. He's not from those that are eating that food yet. When he's more of the food and less of the breast milk, then that is when his urine is that of an adult. That it would be impure and it must be washed. وَيَكْفِهِ النَّضْحِ. So it is enough to sprinkle the water on it. It is enough to sprinkle the water on it. Just as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, يُغْسَلُوا مِنَ الْبَوْلِ جَارِيَةً وَيُرَشْ بِغُلَامٍ. You one of a small girl and you sprinkle the water of a small boy. And this is found in the Sunan of Abi Dawud wa Nasa'i. And then he continues, وَإِذَا زَالَتْ عَيْنَ النَّجَاسَةِ. So with the physical impurity is removed, that the area is now pure. Whether it be your clothing, whether your body, whether it be your area, and there is no effect or harm of any color or smell remaining, like a stain. There's no effect or harm if the color or the smell remains. And this is based from the statement لِقَوْلِهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ لِقَوْلَ فِي دَمَ الْحَيْضِ. The Prophet about the menstruating blood, it is sufficient for you water, and the stain will not harm you. The stain will not harm you. And here, mentioned that some of the scholars have graded it or deemed it to be weak. But here, Shaykh Al-Albani, rahimahullah, in Irwa, has said it authentic. Ala kulli hal, that is the most preferred position. There is a garment, especially when it comes to blood, something that is stained in that regards, and it might remain, you run it through the washing machine a couple times, but the stain remains, that here there is no harm in that. There is no harm in that. The most important thing is the impurity, whether it be feces, whether it be blood, or whether it be urine. This is what must be removed by any means necessary. By any means necessary in that regards, whether it be with Tide, whatever you can remove it with, and it is removed, that here the objective has been. And like we said, that there are arguments in this regards, but here's the Shaykh Rahimahullah mentioned, that the removal of it is what is the main point. The main point of it is the removal of it. So if you use water, if it is removed with just water, good. If you need extra, water and bleach, water and Tide, water and dove or whatever, that it helps it out better. It increases the chances of it removing it better, then that is also sufficient and something which is acceptable. So that is the end of in regards to that of the things that are deemed impure. And here on the paper we broke it down, or it is broken down into 4 different categories. It's broken down into 4 different categories. And on the thing I put a kha on some of them to mention that there is ikhtilaf in those of, not for us to dive into it and break down the explanation of it or to get deep into it, but rather from the aspect of understanding that there is an argument based upon that point. So like I said, in fiqh, it's not always going to be 1 + 1 = 2. It's not always going to be that all of this is pure and all of this is impure. There will be exceptions to the rule. There will be exceptions based upon what we mentioned from the small things in dealing with usul, whether it be from that of the understanding, whether that be of the authenticity, whether it be that of the usage of that particular proof. That here, that's where the scholars differ, and this is where you will find that that's where the different positions come from. But here, to make it simple upon us, we can comprehend and build upon something and base something upon something, that we are going to keep it at what Shaykh or Imam Sa'di rahimahullah mentions and follow that. But we will mention as a passage, there are different positions of the scholars in this regard. Come to a different book, we can give those explanations. But as of now, we will hold on to that which the Shaykh mentions. And the main theme of it is what? Any animal out of which he has mentioned, that they are eaten, or the animal which is eaten are what? Pure. They are pure. Animal, meaning that anything that comes from them is likewise impure. Eat, pure. So likewise is pure. So see how, now if we go and throw in some different things, a little bit of confusion. So here we'll keep it at that. We'll start next week with now the discussion in regards to the removal of the spiritual impurity. And that of dealing with the discussion of wudu and the chin of it. So inshallah, stop here. I think that's pretty much everything. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns about the lesson, go ahead.
What about the urine of a boy that's an age of discernment, but he's majnun?
Yeah, he still fall under the category of being not an adult. He would still be, not in the sense of age, but his urine would still be impure.
The sister said, what about ovulation?
What's, who?
You asked about ovulation for the women, inshallah. It's like the moisture of the discharge.
Yeah, inshallah. Dealing with the discharge of a woman. Allah.